Coming up on this exciting episode of the Angry Geek Show.
Dingleberry!
Comic books stacked, games on the screen, talking about the heroes and the ones in between. From Gotham to the stars, through the multiverse they go. It's nerd life loud on the Angry Geek Show. They're angry, they're geeky, they're breaking it down. From cosplay queens to legends in town. Grab your popcorn, let your fandom flow. It's time to tune in to the Angry Geek Show. Superman debates, Boba Fett's jetpack. Marvel versus DC, no holding back. Con floor interviews, hot takes they throw. They'll nerd out with you on the Angry Geek Show. They're angry, they're geeky, they're breaking it down. Legends, creators, the best all around. Grab your Funko, your lightsaber glow. It's time to tune in to the Angry Geek Show. From horror flicks to retro toys, geek girls, geek guys making all the noise. With passion and heart, they're running the game. If you're part of the tribe, you're part of the flame. They're angry, they're geeky, they're breaking it down. Fandom united in every town. Con to con, let the good vibes grow. All hail the kingdom of the Angry Geek Show.
Hey, soaring with the eagles, slithering with the snakes. I've been everywhere in between, but she is the dingleberry and streaming queen. We are the Angry Geeks, and welcome to this Monday night. And we got, hey, he didn't even wait for his intro. He's right on stage with us, the one and only David Pepose, Speed Racer, dude.
Hi.
My God, all right, you're gonna be here for the whole thing now. My whole thing. So see, Sophia and I, we're going to talk about what happened over the weekend, but you're going to sit here, hang out with us. I got so much to talk about with Speed Racer, dude. Thank
Sure.
you so much for being on. But first, Dave, you know what? You're here. Dave, did you buy any toys over the weekend? Did you get any cool comics? Did you do anything cool?
Let's see, what did I do this weekend? I worked on a script most of the weekend. Trying to think what else I did. Yeah, I'm reading books every week, so I think, what did I read last week? Of course, I picked up Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimates. You know what, let me look at my list of what I picked up this week. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Wednesday warrior. I'm always trying to keep up with everything going on. I read Superman Unlimited. I checked out Godzilla Escape the Dead Zone, which is a favorite. I really like that one a lot. Jason Aaron concluding his run on Turtles. Picked that up. G.I. Joe, Joshua Williamson's doing such a great job on it. Battle Beast is super fun. Just scrolling through. Spider-Man, I've been really enjoying, especially Spider-Man in Space. Unbreakable X-Men was really neat. So yeah, I mean, it's been a great time to be a comics fan, as it is all the time. But yes, those are the books I'm sort of picking up each and every week.
All right, you didn't buy any toys or anything? No video
games?
No toys?
No toys.
No toys. Okay.
I don't have room in my apartment. I got too much stuff already. Maybe I'll treat myself to something fun in a few weeks.
No room?
Nice.
Sophia,
Yes.
we played Friday night, but then you were getting scared Saturday night, so Jar Jar and I played with one of our mods on Saturday night. We got our butts kicked without you because we need you. We need you when we go into battle because the little 12-year-olds kill us all the time. Where were you?
I was
We
playing a
needed
quiet
you.
place.
I know, but God,
I know.
Dave, I don't know if you're a gamer or anything, but the 12-year-olds, they beat the crap out of us when we play Fortnite.
We do have a lot of comments that I want to catch up on real quick.
All right, yeah, really quick.
Real quick. So we got Mrs. Raver and Jason in the UK. Thank you for the lurk. Savet Hans.
Yes, thank you. Seven Hans,
Ashton,
thank you.
thank you for the lurk as well. Guy Brusha says hello, Sophia and Lewis. Dingleberry.
Dingleberry. Hey, how come I'm not seeing the comments? They pulling up?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm supposed to
there-
click on them. My bad. Okay, so Mango says hello. Sorry. Mango says hello, Jar Jar. I'll give you
Oh.
3 guesses who didn't call me today in the first 2 who don't count.
My brother.
By the power of Grayskull.
Now Jar Jar Jeremy is my brother, my best friend in the whole wide world. And Dave, I gotta explain why. Jeremy, I was listening to the Lone Ranger, old time radio. I gotta tell you. So I forgot. I'll call you tomorrow. Love you. Bye. Okay, next.
Voice says hello, everybody. Jar Jar says, "Are you sad the Ultimate Universe is ending again?"
That's for you, Dave.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think those are great comics. I'd love to see them go as long as the creators involved want to do them. So it is one of those like don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. But yeah, I am a little bummed. I think they could tell Hickman and Dennis Camp and Peach Momoko and Chris Condon. I think they and Brian Edward Hill. They're a great crew, and I'm excited to see what they're up to next. But they really were kind of a real machine working together.
All right, and Jar Jar also wanted to know if there's anything you don't read.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure some stuff falls through the cracks, or there are things that like I don't know enough about to catch up on, but I try to read about as much as I can, and just because I want to know what else is going on, and I want to be up to speed on what everybody's doing. But yeah, I'm sure there's a few things that fall in the cracks. You can only get so many comics in a week.
Okay. All right. Guy says Sophia is a battle master. Yeah. Well, is that a play on the comic book, or is that a play on?
I think on video games.
On
Jar Jar
video
says,
games.
You guys got 2 victories. Oh no, he got 2 victories today on Fortnite. Nice. I'm gonna be gaming after this show. Joe McDonald
I'm
says,
gonna go to sleep.
Hey, hey kids, big fan of David's Space Ghost.
Thank you.
Oh, we're gonna be talking about that as well. But the main thing I want to talk about is definitely Speed Racer, because after free comic book day and I read issue 0, I was definitely hooked. So I want to talk to Dave about that. Sophia, did you get anything over the weekend?
No, I chilled at home and streamed all weekend. So nothing fancy schmancy.
You had an 11-hour stream day.
I did.
11 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, you look like Chris Pratt. I just wanted to get that out there.
That's kind of you. Sure, I'll take it. I wish I had his paycheck. But
I was like, dude, I'm gonna tell everyone that we had Chris Pratt on. I'm gonna change his name to Chris Pratt. And yeah, I got what did I get this weekend? I got another wristband. And United States Championship belt. And I was just doing a lot of crafting, that stuff. What is it?
So Void says, bought myself some DC comics over my trip, some death metal, and a bit of figurines. So I'm bringing home a good haul this time around. Yes. So today's Void's last day in America. He's going back to Denmark.
Oh, that's right.
Going back to the Denmarkian lands.
Yeah, he's Denmark. He's Void is a ambassador from Denmark. He's a Denmarkian ambassador, and he wears this big whale head on his shoulder. Yeah, remember
whale
that
head?
Yes, that last time he came here, I got to meet Void, and he actually there's a picture of Void and I where Void is wearing one of my cowboy hats.
Here we go again.
and Void has like this big whale skin that he wears when he comes over here, because he was a guest at
Hello,
Mrs. Raver. He was a guest at Rhode Island Anime Con, and he was walking around with this big whale skin on. So true story, Dave. Really. So Dave,
Yeah.
Speed Racer.
Yeah.
Was this your idea to bring it to Mad Cave, or did Mad Cave come to you and
Yeah.
say,
So yeah, this was definitely. I've worked with MadCave on other projects before. I did a book with them
Mhm.
called "The Devil That Wears My Face," and that was kind of the beginning of a really great working partnership with them.
Detour.
Um, they've been big fans of my work since my very first creator-owned book, Spencer and Locke, and so it'd been a long time coming, kind of getting something together. But it was such a good experience that Mad Cave and I were immediately talking afterwards about what's the next project. And my editor Chaz Pangburn would kind of approach me with different licensed properties, and either the timing didn't work out with the work I was doing over at Marvel, or I didn't know the property well enough, and I didn't really feel like I had like a strong angle to kind of like justify the commitment on either side. But Chaz cornered me at San Diego Comic Con last year, and he said, "Listen, we've been doing these Gotcha Man comics. People have really been enjoying them. We're working with Tatsunoko Productions, and we're going to expand that partnership to include Speed Racer. Would you have any interest in that book?" And up until like 30 seconds prior, I'd never considered a Speed Racer book. But as soon as the words left his mouth, I I could immediately imagine what that book was going to look like, and I could the wheels were already kind of turning in my head. In particular, I love writing car chases in comics, and I've done that in almost every book that I can fit them in. I love the challenge of being able to convey like the speed and intensity and motion in a static medium like comics. And so the idea of being able to do a 16 issue run where we could have car chases in every issue, I knew I was never going to get that opportunity again. And so I told Chaz pretty much immediately. I was like, "Yeah, I could do that. That would be great." And then I cornered Mark London, our editor in chief, or our publisher, I should say, and Mike Martz, our editor in chief, and I said, "You guys have to give me this book. I really want to do this. I think we could do something really neat." And so I actually pitched it, kind of the bones of it right there is Rocky and race car,
Mhm.
and the idea of Speed having to win the Formula X World Championship because he needs to pay for his father Pops's heart transplant. And yeah, so I wound up watching every episode to really kind of like get to know the mythology a little bit better and figure out like what are characters that I can use to populate the series. But yeah, we've been working on this now about a year so far, and I just turned in my script for issue 7, so I'm about to hit about like the halfway point on sort of my planned run on that. But it's been just such a wonderful book, and I'm working with such an amazing team. David Tinto, in particular, is just such a spectacular artist, and he really understands the assignment, and he really kind of imbues this book with its own unique kind of energy and fun. And so, yeah, it's been a real treat to get to work on this book and to be able to sort of bring Speed Racer to a whole new audience. And just seeing the response to it, really, it means a lot to me as a writer, for sure.
Well, when I read the
Hmm.
Free Comic Book Day issue,
Yeah.
I was like, the feel of the book, the look of the book, it brought me to the very first Fast and the Furious movie, the good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
The very first. I was like, dude, this book, lightning in a bottle. This is gonna be awesome. This is gonna be an awesome run. This is like, it brought me. This is straight up Fast and the Furious, and it was like the very first movie, and I was hooked
Thank
from
you.
right there. You knocked it out of the park, bro, and
Thank
I loved it. And I was like, well, I'm gonna take 2 for me and 1 for Sophia, and
Mhm.
I was like, here you go. This is like fantastic stuff.
Thank you.
Who put together the full team? Because like Buddy
Yeah.
Bedoin, he's a friend of ours.
Oh,
So
Buddy's
how
great.
did yeah, how did
Um,
you put this team together? Did the team approach you? Did you put the team together?
so it really kind of came in collaboration with my editor, Chaz Pangburn. Chaz is really given us a lot of latitude on this book. Like he really is. He's the one sort of making sure that he's herding all the cats. So I know it's a thankless job for him. And he's sort of our interface with the licensor, but also, he's sort of the one who interfaces with Mad Cave proper in terms of figuring out like what's the budget on the book and who's available. And so Chaz and I, we talked kind of early on about like who are some people that might be a good fit for this book at the various different kind of roles in it. And David Tinto and I actually worked together on a short over at Marvel a few years back. I was doing an arc on Avengers Unlimited for the Marvel Unlimited app, and He and I did a Captain Marvel and She-Hulk chapter together, and I was so impressed with the level of energy and expressiveness that he brought to the book. And right after I had turned in my outline to MADCAVE for approval for Speed Racer, I actually ran into him at New York Comic Con, and we were talking. And I said, "David, what are you up to right now?" And he was like, "Actually, my schedule is starting to open up." And I was like, "We should talk about Speed Racer." And so, I mentioned to Chaz, I was like, "Here's kind of some names of some people that I think would be a really good fit. I think David Tinto is kind of at the top of the list." And thankfully, Chaz and Tatsunoko and Mad Cave agreed. And so once we had kind of David locked in, we were able to figure out like who else we could pair with him, like Rex Locus on colors. I was really a fan of what Rex was doing in colors over on the Aquaman book with friend Jeremy Adams. And so I was like, oh, hey, like, would he be available and interested to do something like this? And I love the way that Rex and David's art kind of play off each other. And then Buddy and I, we've known each other from the convention scene. And Buddy really wanted to get something off the ground with me at some point. And I know he had worked a lot with Chaz. And so it was one of those things. Chaz kind of came up to me and said, like, we're going to put Buddy on the book. And I was a real fan of what he had done on Gotcha Man with the lettering. So it really, the team kind of really clicked together in a nice way. But, it's funny you talk about the Free Comic Book Day issue, because actually that was the issue that sort of kind of came in at the very last minute. When I was first approached for the book, I was told we're going to do 15 issues. And then as I was sort of developing everything, Chaz came to me and said, actually, we might be doing a Free Comic Book Day issue. And if we are doing that, that means we're going to have to start like now. And I think like a week or so later, Chaz said, we're going to do it. And it became really a really interesting challenge for me, because on the one hand, I wanted to do a self-contained story. I don't like the Free Comic Book Day issues that are just a couple of teaser pages. And at the same time, I didn't want to do an issue that if you missed it, then you wouldn't understand issue 1. And so it was really this interesting challenge of how do I write kind of 2 different issue 1s in a way. One that it works whether or not you read it. And so that was kind of like the teaser of it all, sort of this idea of sort of seeing the world of Palm City and kind of getting to see Speed as sort of this force rather than sort of, waiting a little while before we dig into the character and getting to introduce all the supporting cast. That was sort of my way of circling the square. And I think kind of a little bit of a love letter to my newspaper days. I think every city kind of has its own personality and its own points of pride and the things that it does well and its obsessions and its pastimes. And so the idea of Palm City sort of being this ultimate racing town, the place where sort of Formula X was born, but there's also this burgeoning street racer scene. And that really was kind of my way in, this idea that like Speed, he hasn't turned a pro yet, but he's sort of come from this unlikely beginnings of these back alley races, and just kind of shows like he's got all this talent, but he still has so much more to learn. And it's that kind of interesting mesh that makes Speed, I think, such an interesting character, is because he's got so much talent, but he still has so much room to grow.
Yeah, hence what I was saying, the Fast and the Furious, man.
Yeah.
I was like, it. Now that book during Free Comic Book Day, because now again, book hasn't been released yet.
Yeah.
We are Alternate Universe LLC, one of our sponsors. That book was constantly, we had to replenish the stack because it was moving.
That's what I like to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, it was moving more than the Marvel, moving more than the DC stuff. I mean, it was here you go. I was super happy. And it was just, now Sophia, she was streaming in because she wasn't at the store with me that day. And it was, so many people were coming over. Yep, Speed Racer. And I was like, wow, this book is going to be hot when it comes out. And sure enough, it is. Now, you said you went back and you did your homework. And this is what Sophia and I always say all the time. Do your homework. Don't say you're a big fan unless you do your homework.
Yeah.
Was it just the original series that you watched, or did you watch that crappy reboot? Because that crappy reboot was awful.
It's one of those things. The Speed Racer rights are a little bit complicated, and so really, it was very much, I was told from the beginning, you can draw from the original anime and you can draw from the original manga, but that's sort of what Tatsunoko has the rights to. So Things like the reboot cartoon, things like the Speed Racer movie. Those things are off
Ooh.
limits to me. Which is why you're never
Good.
going to see like Cannonball Taylor in my book, even though I think that name rules. You know, I so it was one of those things like I had kind of that core to go by, and that core was already very substantial. I think it's like 52 episodes, and they're 22 minutes each. And for me, when I say I watch all of them, it's not just sort of me just sitting there on the couch. It's literally I'm basically writing my own not transcription, but I'm writing my own summary bullet point for every single episode, which means that like a 22-minute episode in real time is probably something like an hour and a half when it takes when you have to sort of pause and rewind and say, did I hear that thing properly? And so
Dude, I did that with the theme song when I was a kid. Come on.
yeah, it was certainly and I think that's the hardest thing about a book like that, or I did the same thing on Space Ghost, is if you don't know the mythology, you got to learn the mythology, and that becomes, there's no shortcutting that. That's really like, you have to just like, it's a little bit, it's very time consuming work, and it's work that sort of like kind of affects my brain in maybe a less than great way, because you just have to sit there and listen. You can't even like jump to conclusions. You can sort of just sit there and kind of let it percolate a little bit. So yeah, it just takes time, and when you're under deadlines, time is not something you always have. So thankfully we were able to kind of like get it all together, but yeah, and I think it wound up working for the book. I think that's the reason why I do it, even though it's kind of a pain in the butt sometimes, is that like, I would much rather do my homework now than have a diehard fan be upset and come at me and saying, well, what about this character that I would expect to be in a book like this? So I feel like for Speed Racer, I think we've covered just about all the bases. I think there was only one villain that I'm aware of that I couldn't quite fit in with the runway.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel like we're really going to hit like all the major stuff as we sort of see Speed's trials and tribulations on the way to the Formula X championship.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Sophia, we just had a comment from Marcus.
Yes.
Marcus is from So Wizard Podcast. Kid,
Yeah.
Marcus wants to know, was there a challenge to bring in some elements from classic anime like Chim Chim?
Boy, that's a great question. And yeah, I mean, it was a welcome challenge, of course. There were a few elements to it. I mean, to answer your direct question, Chim Chim was sort of we went back up and forth on Chim Chim quite a bit. And I think it comes down to when you write the treatment of an outline or a pitch for a book like this, you only sort of have an approximation of what the tone's going to be, because the tone is really determined by your artist, and you don't know who your artist is going to be most of the time. So you're kind of just guessing a little bit, and knowing that the art will kind of make that choice for you in a lot of ways. And so I'd written a lot of monkey characters. I've written Blip in the pages of Space Ghost. I was already committed to writing Captain Planet, which has Mati and his monkey. I'd written my Wizard of Oz book, the OZ, which has a bunch of winged monkeys. And I was like, oh, is having the monkey going to be too much of, is it going to take people out of it? And we went back and forth with Tatsunoko many times over like, are we going to have him in there? Are we not going to have him in there? And kind of at the 11th hour, as we were working on the Free Comic Book Day issue, rather than having Spritel's channel on YouTube just being kind of monkey branded, we're like, you know what? Let's give him the monkey. Let's sort of have it be like one of those helper monkeys. And then if we ever get the chance to tell that story, either in the main book or in Tales from the Road, we can sort of figure out like this idea of like, how did Spritel win Chim Chim? And I feel like it's some crazy night that like Spritel had where he won Chim Chim in a bet and came home. And they're like, why do you have a monkey? But it's also very Spritel coded. But there are definitely other things like, figuring out the gadgets of the Mach 5 was kind of like the big thing for me to wrap my brain around, because you want those gadgets. I don't think it's Speed Racer without them. But at the same time, you have to circle the square of, how do you have a car with all those gadgets and it not seem like Speed is boxing with weighted gloves? How do you make it seem fair? How do you keep Speed as the underdog? As we were coming up with it, Mark Russell was the one who kind of coined the term Formula X. And I was like, okay, that's a cool thing. And that gives me this room to say, all the cars have certain characteristics to them. They all have the auto jacks. They all have the belt tires. You know, whereas they each have their own signature weapon. And so that way you can kind of say Speed has the buzzsaw, whereas, you know, somebody like Racer X has like a grappling cable, or Snake Oiler, for example, had like acidic venom. And I'm very excited, you know, the weapon that Kim Jugger, the Black Jaguar, has in our issue 4 and 5 coming up. That's really neat looking. So, yeah, that was, I think, the biggest challenge for all that. I think everything else, you know, the bones of Speed Racer, I think, are very timeless. I don't think there's anything broken. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. It's really kind of pop culture archaeology. It's just figuring out kind of like the bones of it, and then kind of just giving them a light dusting to make them kind of sparkle like new. But I think there's something, you know, Speed's dynamic with Racer X, I think, is a potent kind of thing for this book. And I loved in the original episodes that Pops doesn't want Speed to race, you know, and,
Yeah.
and it sort of it alludes to this kind of family trauma of Rex leaving. And we tried to kind of like elevate that a little bit to just Rex being presumed dead. I figured a lot of people would have assumed, you know, that's sort of a bit of the lore that's mutated since the Speed Racer Speed Racer movie. And so, you know, that idea of that family trauma kind of being like the inciting event, and that's the thing that sort of left Speed and Pops and Spritel and Ma Racer all in their kind of respective corners. Um, that I think was something that was really neat, and that I think that's the anchor for all this. You know, you could have all the spectacle in the world, but if you don't care about these characters, if you don't give them something emotional to fight for, then it's all kind of nonsense. So, you know, I think Speed Racer in particular is a very human story. There's no superpowers to lean on. There's no sort of world shaking stakes. It's all very personal. It's all very human.
Skill.
And yeah, you know, and just, I think that vulnerability for a
Yeah.
character like Speed, and really the
Yeah, 'cause
entire
you can
cast,
relate to them.
yeah, you know, it's a different challenge than most things I've written, because I've been writing superheroes now kind of nonstop for the last few years. But I think it's good training. It's a muscle group that I think when you forget how to use it, it makes all your stories worse, because of this, you know, like, I'm not trying to write to preach to the choir. I want converts. I want to write this book. If you've never read a comic before, I can sell this to you at my convention table. You know, I always say that I write my books for an audience of one, and that's my wife. She's not a diehard comics fan, but she reads all my scripts before I send them. And if she feels something, then I know that I've made this thing accessible enough, and it's not bogged down by just like spectacle upon spectacle. And Speed Racer, I think, is the book that really represents that the most for me right now.
Well, the whole story of the Racer family is family driven from
Yeah.
going back to the original source material,
Yeah.
even through the crappy reboot cartoon and the movie. It was all very family driven because it is a family.
Yeah.
Promise me one thing: you're going to keep the Mach 6 out of the story.
Yeah, there's
Good.
you'll the Mach 5, I think, is a core bit of iconography for all this. But you know, it's one of those things that, like, you'll see, like, the idea of design and skill sort of, you know, being two sides of the same coin. That's something that's going to pop up as a theme throughout the whole series. You know, this idea of, like, you know, I guess I can give you guys like a little tease. We haven't solicited it yet, but issues 6 and 7 are going to be our big GRX engine two-parter. And this idea, I pitched it as sort of like Creed 2. The idea of sort of the sins of the fathers coming to haunt the sons. And so it's Speed versus the son of Dr. Ben Cranham, the creator of the GRX engine, Carl Cranham. And Carl sort of blames Pops Racer for his father's disgrace and death. And he's going to get revenge on the Racer family by any means necessary, using sort of this dangerous, unstable engine known as the GRX. And, you know, that is going to become, like, I think, a big thing for Speed, is that, like, he's going to finally face a problem that he can't just muscle his way out of. And so he's going to have to actually use his head. And so, like, things like that, like, I think are really fun. And so it's one of those things that I think the Mach 5, I want it to stay as consistent as I can. So that way, like, people have like a good foundation to kind of lean on, and also that way, like, we can't just bail Speed out of trouble by giving them just like random upgrades all the time.
Mhm.
It comes down to like it's a common phrase, and we use it a lot in that two-parter. Is it's not about the car, it's about the driver behind the wheel.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So
So,
true.
that's I think yeah, we would not be making any changes to the Mach 5 lightly for sure.
Wow. All right. Hey, I got another question, but we got to pay some bills. We'll be right back, and keep that in mind about the GRX, and I got to know about that. We got to pay some bills.
Dingleberry time! Dingleberry! Okay, guys, I'm gonna ask a question, and you have to answer correctly. The question is: in Ant-Man, what animal did Darren Cross unsuccessfully shrink?
Oh, crap. I didn't. Oh, man. Crap, I didn't really like Ant-Man, the first one.
I'm sorry.
Ah, look at Davis thinking.
I'm thinking, but I don't know the answer. My guess
Come
is
on, Chris Pratt. Come on.
he wasn't in that movie either.
I
My
know.
guess is an ant, but I can't imagine that's right.
No.
Is chat coming in? You got to see chat's answers too.
Do you wanna
Was
follow?
it a cat? I'm gonna say a cat. I don't know.
No.
A lion.
No.
Damn. Ah,
An animal from the Muppets?
no. I don't know. I don't know.
Wasp? Never watched it. I don't know.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm
Joe.
gonna say.
It goes by.
Oh,
Oh.
thanks, Joe. A sheep?
It is a sheep.
Well, I can't say a sheep. I was wrong because I said a cat.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed that at all. It's been a long
And
time
Dave,
in that movie.
yeah, Dave didn't even give an answer, so we were both.
He did. He's
Damn
an
it.
ant.
Yeah, I
Oh.
guessed it was an ant. I think it's because I thought he threw one of the discs, of Ant-Man's discs, and missed him and hit one of the ants, but I misremembered all that.
I think
I'm
there was
thinking
an ant that grew big and they could ride it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was.
I'm thinking the Thomas the Tank Engine that got bigger.
Oh,
Been a while
And
since I've
Mango
seen the
said-
movie. Yeah.
damn it.
It's
Hey,
okay.
question. Yeah, Quiz with Quinzel is brought to you by CH Square Collectibles at 121 Jewett City, the Slater Hill Mall. What does Joe say?
Joe says Tales from the Road is in my pile from this past week and we'll get to read it tonight.
Oh, thank you. Well, Mark London, our CEO, and Sebastian Paris, they took point on the main story, and I remember reading it at New York Comic Con a few weeks ago, and I remember telling Mark, like, oh, this reminds me of Ultimate Wolverine in the way that, like, Mark really lets the art do a lot of talking in this, and Sebastian is like the perfect person to do this. I think this is Sebastian's best work to date, and he's such an underrated artist. What I wouldn't do to work with him, and then I wrote a nice little backup story with Spritel and Chim Chim with our amazing cover artist Alessio Zono. So I feel like a lot of anthologies sometimes don't feel like you're getting enough bang for your buck, but this is kind of like a really cool cinematic, like oversized one shot, and then I get to be the nice little comedic palate cleanser at the end. So yeah, definitely check it out. We really appreciate you giving us a shot.
The style of art, I'm going to pull this up and just show people. The style of art is just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, David is amazing. He did such a great job, and Rex as well on the colors. I was very proud of how that came together, especially because we did that issue kind of on an accelerated time frame. But I was really happy with how it came together. And
now, with this being the free comic book issue, that's why I have this one out. I don't want to put the bag and boarded issues out.
Yeah, and that's Chris Batista, who did all of our character designs. He did the Racer X backup story with Mark Russell, which is going to kind of tee into Mark's miniseries for Racer X. And
here's Racer X right here.
Yeah, and yep, there's Racer X. He's so fun. I always think of him as like Batman in a race car. Like he's got
good analogy.
Yeah,
Great
he's very brooding and dramatic. He's and his stories, I think, to me, kind of like organically work at a much bigger frame than Speed himself. I know in the original cartoon, Speed did travel all sorts of foreign countries and oftentimes found himself in various stages of colonialist affairs. But I feel like for me, like that maybe departs a little bit from like the core of Speed and like what he wants to do and like what makes him so interesting. I understand the James Bond sort of inspiration that went into all of it, but
Mhm.
I feel like Racer X is the guy who like, oh, he's got a past. He's been doing things since, he assumed this identity. He works with Interpol. And so yeah, like I feel like he can do some really cool stuff. I one the villain that I left on the table, I'll tell you, I left it on the table because I'm really hoping that Mark picks him up for the Racer X book, because it's something that I think would really fit well in Racer X's wheelhouse more than mine. But never say never. There might be room to dig up that character one of these days.
Sophia, you want to get that, or you want me to read it?
Joe says the Racer X series fits nicely into the
Continuity. You
continuity
can't talk.
you have
Continuity.
established with Speed, but also stands nicely on its own.
Thank you. That was our goal with all of that. It's kind of like a little bit of a tightrope when you're doing kind of like spin-off books, and this is sort of my first time kind of running the lead book on something like this, where you don't want every book to read the same. You want every book to kind of have its own unique voice and tone and reason for being, but at the same time, you don't want things to feel so divorced from each other that but at the same time, you also don't want to make it that like Speed, that Racer X #1 feels like Speed Racer 2.5,
Yeah.
or you have to read Speed Racer in order for Racer X to make sense, or vice versa. And so, I think we've been really trying to kind of give all the different creators involved like a lot of latitude to be able to tell their own different flavors of stories, and saying like, here's sort of the guidelines of where I'm going with, the storyline. And I wrote a very detailed 17-page outline when I pitched this book. So that way we could share it with any other writer who's sort of working in this universe to kind of get a sense of which characters I'm using and what the guideposts are. But yeah, then it kind of falls into everybody else's hands of just like, how do we kind of tell like cool, interesting stories that sort of go off the beaten path a little bit? And Mark, I think, has a really interesting, like noir infused take on Racer X that I think speaks to sort of this prodigal son of this legendary car designer, and how that upbringing sort of influences the way that he drives and the way that he prepares for races. And so, yeah, it's been a really cool like trajectory to kind of have that book riding shotgun with us.
What was your reaction the first time you saw the character designs?
Well, so Chris Batista and I, we actually were in quite a bit of contact, as we were putting all those together, because when this book, when Mad Cave approached me about Speed Racer, kind of the first thing I said was like, I'd really like to kind of do like a modern reboot of all this. And I think my reasoning, and this kind of played out in my previous work on Space Ghost, which is also continuing, is if you try to do a lost season or like just a continuation of the original show, you wind up kind of alienating any potential new readers, because they're going to say, oh, I have to watch an entire show for this to make sense. I only got one wild, crazy, beautiful life and only a finite amount of cash and time. I'm not going to get in on this. Whereas I think, when you have an enduring property like Space Ghost or Speed Racer or Captain Planet, something that's kind of had some endurance, clearly there's something there that's enduring and timeless. So for me, I'd rather open that up to a whole, as many different people as I can. And so I think the reboot idea, especially doing it through done in ones and done in twos, I think that's kind of my way of sort of keeping the bar for entry as low as possible. You don't have to have watched anything. You don't have to have read any other books. All you got to do is pick up issue 1. And even if you miss issue 1, our goal is to sort of make it accessible enough that, oh, you dropped in issue 3, that's fine, no worries. You haven't we'll fill you in on everything you need to know, and everything. If you like it, then you can catch back up. So yeah, boy, I think I just lost my train of thought there. but either way, I think just kind of trying to do like the reboot of it all, like I think that's just sort of my way of like, it's the cleanest way in, and it's sort of our way of sidestepping any sort of idea of the cartoons feeling of their time. Because we can say like, what if Speed Racer debuted in the year 2025 with modern storytelling techniques? What would that look like? And that's been, I think, a pretty good North Star for a lot of the nostalgia books that I've been working on lately.
Okay. So when you had Speed from the past,
Yeah.
the same outfit, the blue shirt, white.
Oh,
pants.
sorry, you were asking about Chris. Thank you. Sorry about that. I was talking, and then I'm a talker. So yeah. So
this is your hour, man. This you got to talk what you got to talk about. This is all about you. This is all about the book. So yeah, all I wanted to know was what was your reaction when you saw the artwork?
When I was talking with Chris, there's a reason why I said the reboot of it all and keeping it modern. Is Chris and I, like we didn't want to just do the original designs of Speed Racer. We wanted to modernize them a bit. And so in addition to the 17-page document that I had written up, I actually wrote up a second document, sort of a design document of like, hey, for example, like Speed's haircut. Could we do something kind of like the Tom Welling kind of haircut? Or, can we give him like a hoodie? Can we give him a racing jacket? Can we kind of change up the outfits from scene or from issue to issue, just to sort of make these characters still feel very lived in and very human. And so Chris really took the ball and ran with that. He kind of sent me some initial drawings that he had sent, and then I actually kind of looked at them and figured out like, oh, could we like mix and match different elements of these different designs that you've sent? And so we did that for Speed. We did that for Racer X. We did that. The Mach 5, we kind of kept mostly the same, but we did add, I don't remember if it was Chris or it was David. I think it was Chris. Kind of added in a couple little extra flourishes to that design. Tatsunoko really wanted to encourage us to like say, we want this to feel like its own thing, that this is sort of the comic continuity. It's a brand new thing, like take some risks with it. And so I think Chris really understood the assignment, and seeing those designs, I was like, yeah, okay, this is a character I could really kind of like vibe with. And then seeing the way that David kind of brought those designs to life, particularly at the end of that Zero issue when you see Speed for the first time, I was like, yeah, this is cool. And the great thing about working in a series long term like this is that you see like David getting more and more comfortable with all the characters, and so as a result, he gets to do interesting things with the acting, and you really kind of fall in love with these characters. And I think it's because of the consistency of the art.
Okay. Really quick, Sophia is a gearhead. She has a muscle car.
Oh, nice. What kind of car?
Yes.
2014 Dodge Challenger RT.
Oh, that rules. Cool.
It's like being in a car with Speed when she drives. We did have a comment. We did have a comment. Well, before we get to our next bill payment.
And Joe.
We had a comment way back comparing Speed to Sophia's driving. Can you find that comment? I think it was Guy who brought it up. I want it, Dave. There you go. Is riding with Sophia like being in a Speed Racer race? I would have to say yes.
Wow.
Well, no, it was Guy. Yes, it was Guy. Yes, it definitely.
Hey, I'm very tactful. I'm a tactful driver.
Yeah, she is.
I get to where I need to go quickly.
Yes, she does. My wife and I hear her when she pulls into the driveway. That's how loud that car is.
It does have an exhaust system on it.
So with that being said, Dave, you're going to answer this question for the artist. When they are drawing the Mach 5, do you think that they do the sound effects from the original cartoon when the Mach 5 is using the jacks? Like chunk, 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 chunk.
I mean, I certainly do that when I'm writing. I love using sound effects. I use them all the time. So I wouldn't be surprised. It's funny. I've never asked David if he does that. Now I feel like I have to.
Yes,
But
please.
I certainly sound effects. I think like I love using them. I use them very liberally in my work, and I it's just anything you could do to sort of convey to your readers what's going on that you can give them one extra hook to figure out. And so I like to use sound effects as kind of signposts in that regard. And I definitely use it for the auto jags. I use them, for the buzz saws, all sorts of stuff, and even with the little locator caps to sort of explain what each of the weapons are. I'm very into that.
All right, hey, we're gonna pay some bills. We'll be right back. Hey, we were talking about them all night long. Question of the week is brought to us by, as it is every week, Alternate Universe LLC, New Haven and Milford. Milford is our flag store. If you want comics, just contact Eric. If you live in another state like we do, Sophia and I are both in Massachusetts. The store is in Connecticut. Just call Eric, message him. He's a mod through the Angry Geeks website, Angry Geeks Facebook page. Just message him, or go to the Alternate Universe Facebook page, message him, say, hey, I want my comics, and just like Stan Lee used to do back in the day, he will mail you them flat, and he will get you the Speed Racers, all the ones that you want. He will get them to you, mail them flat. If not, just go to the MADCAVE Studios website and get them from there. Anyway, question number 1. Dave, you're going to go first, then Sophia, then Chat will go. All week long, since we are in spooky season, it has been horror themed, but these are a little bit special. Dave, question number 1. The Car versus Christine.
Oh,
which would win?
I like Christine. I'm a big fan of Christine, so I would go with that one.
Okay. Sophia, The Car or Christine?
So is The Car a movie?
Yeah. Oh my God, child. We talked about this yesterday.
Yeah, you talked to me about Christine.
Yes,
I've heard of Christine.
The car is a movie. It's about a black car, James Brolin. So you're gonna, yes.
I'm gonna have to have my movie watching queue is massive.
I know. The Car or Christine?
Because I haven't heard of The Car, I'm going with Christine. But to be fair, I've not seen either movie. But yeah. Sorry, guys.
All right, let's go to chat really quick. I'm gonna go now. In the book, Christine went upstairs. The Car did some nasty stuff in the movie.
Oh wait, are you talking about The Car that's in the movie against Christine?
No, that was the name of the car. It was The Car. It was a black car. It was the Devil's Car.
I thought it was two different.
I'm gonna, since you two, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go with The Car myself. I'm gonna go with The Car. What does chat say? Look at Dave is laughing at. Why are you laughing at me?
I'm laughing. I'm like you're a contrarian.
Hands down. Guy says Christine. So Christine's the girl, and then there's The Car.
Well, The Car. That's what they call it.
Because of obvious inside jokes with me hitting Mangoat with my car, I'm gonna go with The Car.
Oh
wow!
Oh, girl! All right.
Yeah, this is.
Now that you said Devil's Car, so I go Car.
Okay, voice said The Car. There you go.
We'll catch up on the chat in a second.
Okay, question number 2. This is a good one now. This is a good one. Question number 2. The Coach or the Bee Eating You truck? The Coach or the Bee Eating You truck?
Oh, these are deeper cuts than I'm even familiar with. I have to abstain.
Okay, no. The Coach is the Munsters Coach. Everyone knows the Munsters Coach.
Like the old.
I know the Monsters. I don't remember the Coach, but
well, that's their car. It's their car.
It's
the
like
Munsters. That's what they call it.
What was the other one?
Right.
All right. The Bee Eating You is the truck that was in Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I keep seeing it pop up on my Amazon feed, and I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. So I guess I will go. Well, when you say who would win, what are we talking about here?
A drag race. A drag race.
Oh,
No,
a
this
drag
is a
race.
drag.
Well, then I imagine it would be the other car, right? I imagine it'd be the Jeepers Creepers car over the Monsters.
Real? Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to go with the coach. I'm going to go with the Munsters coach because that used to be a hearse and then it became a dragster. So I'm going to go with the Munsters coach myself. Sophia?
This one's tough because I do like the coach, but also the Be Eaten You truck's pretty badass. That horn is so intimidating, and I don't know. That one's tough. I'd probably go with the truck.
You're going to go with the truck? I know the truck runs down a lot of people off the road.
That's
in
my
the
kind of
movie.
truck.
Yeah. All right. What does chat say quick?
All right, hold on. Okay. So Joe says, "Can I pick a third option and make it Killdozer?"
No, Joe, you can't. No.
Void says going
Oh,
with Jeepers. Guy says Monsters vehicle. And Guy also says, because Grandpa would have a potion to make it go faster.
That's fair.
well, that was that's fair, but that was what Dracula ended up being when they.
Can I catch up with the chat before he gets too far?
Yeah,
behind?
please, really quick.
Real quick. Okay, Joe had said earlier, Space Ghost works because it has the characters, but it also as different as Space Ghost Coast to Coast was without the jokes. And then Void says, I would, after this week, choose Sophia as my driver over Alphabet any day of the week. Oh, okay. Man Goat says he would do Christine over the car and then Beating You over the coach. Thank you, Man Goat.
Well, that guy knows what's up.
All right. So after Speed Racer is dead in the books, said and
Is that
done.
a spoiler?
What?
No,
I'm not killing Speed Racer.
No. I mean, said and done. Said and
Oh,
done.
yeah, said and done.
I heard
Yes.
dead.
Yeah.
I heard dead too, and I was like, what?
Who's dying?
No, said and done. Said and done.
Gotcha.
Okay. What is next? Are we? And then I want to talk about Space Ghost a little bit.
Yeah.
What is next? What
Oh
is
boy, it's very up in the air. I know I'm going to be doing a third Kickstarter for my self-published book, The OZ. We're planning on doing that. We were going to do it around now, but with the Kickstarter strikes going on, we're going to do that early in New Year, sort of once the post-holiday season, dust is settled. I've got another creator-owned book that I believe I'm going to start working on in 26. And Speed Racer and Space Ghost still have a decent amount of runway for both of them. So, there are a few other irons in the fire for other things that might be materializing. And, there are certain things that we could do for, Space Ghost or Speed Racer that, if we wanted to do it, we could kind of extend those runs even further than what we've already got planned. And so, it's very much sort of a lot of balls in the air, but I have kind of a sense of where most of them are going to land. It's also just been a very busy year. And so I haven't quite been able to sort of get more assignments because I've been so lucky to have these nice long-term assignments between Space Ghost and Speed Racer and Captain Planet, which just wrapped up our first season, and Cable 11 Chrome, which we just wrapped up on, and my all ages book 10 Ton Titan Terrier, which just came out a few weeks ago. So it's been a very busy 25, and that's great. I hope that'll persist in 26, and I feel very confident that in 26 and beyond we'll have some really cool stuff to share.
Okay, with Space Ghost,
yeah,
did they approach you or did you approach them?
Yeah, so Dynamite approached me on that book. I've known Nick Barucci for like 15 years, like dating back to my comics journalism days. And so when I sort of made the leap to become, I'll get to that in a minute. Once I made the leap to becoming a comics writer with the original Spencer and Locke, Nick was one of the editors who I would always, reach out to and say like, hey, here's a new thing I'm working on. And so, I had just wrapped up my Punisher, they had just announced my Punisher miniseries, and I had actually wrapped that up behind the scenes, and so I was getting a sense of trying to figure out where I was going to land and what my next assignment was going to be, and so that was actually perfect timing for Joe Rybant, my editor on Space Ghost, to reach out and say, hey, listen, we're doing this new Warner Brothers initiative. We just announced it with Declan Shalvey and Drew Moss on Thundercats. we're doing Space Ghost. Would you have any interest? And it's one of those things. I'll admit I wasn't as familiar with Space Ghost. I grew up with Coast to Coast, and I had read Joe Kelly and Ariel Olivetti's miniseries back in my internship days, and so I remember thinking like, oh, Space Ghost is like an actual traditional superhero. That's neat. I kind of filed it away. And it wasn't when they made me this offer and they said, we'd like to start with a whole year, which is the longest runway I'd ever been offered. I remember asking a few of my friends who were a little older than me, like, hey, do you think I should take this on? Do you think there's anything to this? And it was one of my friends who told me, Space Ghost was inspired by Adam West's Batman. I think you could do something really neat with that. And that was kind of like the big light bulb moment, because I know Batman has sort of shifted in tone in so many different ways since Adam West. And I realized Space Ghost has done the same thing, and so if you can do sort of this Silver Age Space Ghost, and then you can do this 80s sort of toy revival kind of version of Space Ghost and Space Stars, and then sort of this absurd meta comedy in Coast to Coast, and then this sort of grim Batman Begins sort of standalone origin in 2006. I was like, oh, you can do like a cool modern take on Space Ghost. Sort of my goal was to kind of get somewhere in that sweet spot between Batman The Long Halloween and Batman the Animated Series. And I was really kind of able to take a lot of the lessons that I had picked up in Marvel, and things that I had learned and things I wanted to do but never had the runway to do, knowing that I had a year on Space Ghost and that I was able to kind of twist my publisher's arm and say, can you get me an annual in there, making it 13. So that really kind of allowed me to test a theory, this idea of doing primarily done in one stories, and then sort of having these big two-parters so you could really leverage the power of a cliffhanger when you really needed it. And sort of being able to scaffold that idea with, sort of populating the Council of Doom issue by issue. But also, I think, as I watched the original cartoon, realizing how important Jan and Jace were to that mythology, that you meet Jan and Jace in the first episode before you meet Space Ghost. They're the point of view characters in the same way that Kitty Pryde was the point of view character when she debuted in X-Men. And that really kind of opened the whole thing up for me, this idea of sort of these two orphans being picked up by a widower, and sort of how they kind of like heal each other and make each other better as this found family. Sort of like Dr. Grant and Tim and Lex, their arc in the original Jurassic Park. Mm-hmm. That became sort of the emotional spine underneath all the action for Space Ghost. And, it's been such a joy to write that book. And I think a little more autobiographical than I realized. Not that I like fight criminals in space, and not that like my home planet was wiped out by pirates, but I think it really speaks to my younger siblings are triplets. And we have about a 9-year gap between us. And I realized it took me about 3 or 4 issues until I realized that's what I was really writing about, is that this idea that like I had my way of doing things, and then like the meteor hit, and blew up my entire life. And at first it's very disorienting, and you're sort of having to scramble. I'm starting to, I remember the day I started counting everything in threes, but it sort of rewires your brain. It reworks your life to be this, this wonderful experience. You really do become, you have to live your life for something bigger than just yourself. And how can you sort of have this kind of grim, brooding demeanor like Space Ghost when you've got these two effervescent kids just flying around in jetpacks all the time? They're going to make him a better person, whether he likes it or not. And that really, I think, became the heart of Space Ghost, sort of this found family dynamic. And I think being able to juggle that and sort of the villain of the month, that I think has been sort of the formula for our success. I never expected that book to take off quite as hard as it did. But, that book, I think, really kind of changed my career in a big way. And it's one of the proudest books I've ever had the good fortune of being a part of.
That's amazing. Awesome. David, thank you so much for being on. Please tell our audience that are listening and viewing on Pod TV and across social media where they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Pepose D. It's just my last name and first initial. David Pepose Comics on Facebook. You can also visit my website, davidpepose.com, or subscribe to my newsletter, Pep Talks, at bit.ly/pepnews.
And there you go. Right there. Man, go. Thank you. Our mod always doing his job. Look at that. Sophia, tell everyone where they can find the Stream Queen of New England and where they can find us each and every week.
Okay, you can find me on all the platforms at Sophia Cormier, TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky. And you can find the Angry Geeks on the same platforms and the angrygeekshow.com.
Hey, you can find us pretty soon at Rhode Island Comic Con. I'm going to be hitting the stage. I'm emceeing all weekend long. Sophia and I will be live streaming from the after party. And our little girl, she's all grown up. She's going to be moderating her first panel all by herself. Can you dig it? Oh, my Lord. Anyway, come see us, Rhode Island Comic Con. And we'll see you guys Thursday night for another episode of The Angry Geeks. Once again, we want to thank Dave. Dave, hang out for a second. We'll see you backstage. Bye, guys.